I must say it's a pleasure having you here, and Vivek ji, that was got my nerves rolling here. Pallavi ji, what a performance in the movie. Loved it very much. I'm sure you must have heard a lot of people giving you a lot of praise and everything, so I won't go into that. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for what you have done with this movie, and I hope this is a harbinger of peace and oneness that you have just described over here. My question, I have two questions if you give me the liberty. First question is about the movie, this one. Now, while watching the movie, I'm not a film critic, I'm not a film reviewer, but while watching the movie, I got the feeling that you seem to have somehow sanitized the movie in a way that one particular aspect of any war, and I would call Kashmir a war, what happened to the Kashmiri Pandits, a genocide war, whatever you call it. But one aspect that has been going on, it happened in the Balkans, it happened in Rwanda, and I'm referring to rape. Rape can be very demeaning and it can last a lifetime. But somehow, the version that I watched over here, I think that aspect was missing. Was it deliberate on your part to make it not, watching the violence made us angry. But rape is something that can leave a deep wound inside. Was it a deliberate attempt on your side, or was it the censors working that cut out those scenes? I would like to have your views on this.
That's your question number one, right?
Yes. Yes. The question, second one, I'll just push it. It's not related. Your Tashkent Files. I saw the movie. I loved it also. Again, beautiful performance. It was told in a different way. It was more like a panel discussion, a jury discussion sort of. Now looking back at the way that the Kashmir Files has been accepted, do you feel that making the Tashkent Files in a different way, because Lal Bahadur Shastri unfortunately is a almost forgotten figure in our Indian psyche, and not many people have seen images or videos of him. So do you think making that movie in a different way, something similar to a storytelling that you have done here, would have had a greater impact? Thank you.
Okay, so let me answer your second question first. Everything can be said in many other ways. But if you are an honest creative person, if you are an honest artist or a writer, whoever you are, then you should speak from your heart. Because when mind gets involved, you start manipulating the audience. And that's what I believe in. At that point of time, that was the best way to tell the story. But also let me tell you, it's not within my control. The same film, if you release today in a different way, I can guarantee you it will have a different impact. At that time, nobody believed that a film like that can be made because it broke every single rule of filmmaking. 9 old men in one room just talking and no song, no music, nothing. It was in fact against any kind of filmmaking in 100 years, whether in Europe or in Hollywood or wherever. So I would like to say it in any other way, and I think it's great work we have done with Tashkent. As far as this rape thing you're talking about, of course, when we research so deeply, it's not that we didn't know about what happened to the person in the story. But I believe personally with age, you learn lots of things, and I believe, I have to say it in Hindi, अगर एक बांसुरी बजाने से काम चल जाए तो ऑर्केस्ट्रा की ज़रूरत नहीं है. And also at that point of time I didn't feel like getting into that. I just couldn't do it. Maybe I failed to do that. I felt that just by tearing a piece of cloth says more than showing rape. Our idea was not to titillate the audience. Our idea was not to create sensationalism. We just wanted to keep it very raw and pure. And as long as it has an impact, and trust me on this, as a filmmaker, I'm telling you with some experience, if we had shown the rape, this film would have gone in a different direction. Right? And there is a dignity of dead people also. And I think as creative people, it's our responsibility to give due respect to the dead people and their family. Imagine if you are part of that family, what would you prefer to see? Thank you.
I'm Sushil Saraf, representing Vishnu Parisad in Thailand and in Bharat also. See, we are discussing among our musicians. So we wanted to show this movie to the students of Thailand, which they are not proficient in English, and I wanted to show in Thai. So, and as your movie is commercial and we are like NGOs, we want to show it free. Maybe we pay the cost of dubbing in Thai. And is it possible to do it here, especially in all universities, young people, young children and young people?
Free. Please don't talk like Chief Minister of Delhi. If everything becomes free, then there will be no Kashmir files after this. So we have invested a lot of time, money. A lot of young people have worked for free. This lot of investment has gone into it. Don't go by the figures which you hear in public. So, and also we should also cultivate the habit. I learned from Gandhiji. He never kept a penny for himself, but there was a price to truth. So there should be a cost to truth. If you are a truth seeker, we should also cultivate habit to, give money and get it done. I think that's a good thing.
My name is Lekha Shankar. I review films and I also program films. So I was happy to see the film before this talk. I was very disturbed by it, which is why Pallavi's talk was very good, because I was quite ignorant till I saw this film. And your talk about humanism, I also heard your speech on the Capitol Hill and all, where you talk about humanism. The film is a total negation of humanism, right? I guess that's the point. I had so many questions, but I'll just stick to some basic. First, I wanted to know, your company is called I Am Buddha, and you have a film made with Buddha, and since this is a Buddhist country, I was just curious to know why you chose Buddha. Stands for peace, temperance, but for Hindu to choose, that I thought was important in this gathering. Secondly, the film has polarized people. The people who love the movie like it because they feel it's important that the story needs to be told to the rest of the world. But the people who didn't like the movie feel that it might lead to more divisions, more Islamophobia, which is not really the right thing to do. You were talking of oneness, but it may cause divisions. So this is what I've been hearing all over, and reading all the Indian critics, the one word they always used is, should have been more nuanced, because it was not just about terrorism, it was about Muslim terrorism. So that kind of bothered me a bit.
Okay, yeah. Brilliant question. I'm very glad. Thank you very much. So first I'll answer your Islamophobia and polarization question, and then I'll tell you about I Am Buddha. That's how it should be. The best thing should be in the end. So, okay. So, polarization. Some polarizations are very important and necessary for the world. If without Ramayana, you won't understand the difference between good and evil. Without Mahabharata, you won't understand the difference between good and evil. Some polarization stories are very important to show to the younger generation what is good for humanity and what is bad for humanity. Even a child, an idiot, can understand after seeing the film what is good for humanity and what is bad for humanity. So anybody who's saying it's polarized, if you see the track record of all those people, they have always had sympathy for terrorism. And they have been giving intellectual shield to terrorism. So it is very good that a lot of people are coming out and the world is seeing that why terrorism is flourishing. Terrorism is flourishing. You guys, I'm sitting in a Buddhist country. Do you know how terrorism has actually killed so many Buddhists? So you have to understand that there are people. Terrorism is a big business. A lot of people in a lot of important places are also part of that, directly or indirectly. they are part of that business of terrorism, and therefore let's not get confused and let's not get into this Western way of pinning down people who are against terrorism. I am absolutely against any kind of terrorism. And if you blame me for polarizing the world, yes, I am a polarizing director. I want this world to be polarized between peace-loving people and the terrorists. That's the answer to your first question. Have you seen the film?
Yeah.
Okay. Then only I can answer your second question about Islamophobia. If you have seen the film, has the film ever, even for once, used the word Muslim? Has it criticized any Muslim person? Deliberately, Pallavi forced me actually to take out any reference to Pakistan. In fact, in our script, there was not even the word Pakistan ever. No. Islam is not mentioned by me. Islam is mentioned by the terrorists who raise slogans Ralif, Galif, Shalif, which simply means convert to Islam or run or die. People who did not run, they were killed. A woman was cut on a saw machine alive. I have not done that. I have not written that story. The story is like that. It's like tomorrow somebody will say, don't make a film on freedom struggle. It is what? British phobia or colonial phobia. So certain phobias are good. Phobia means you are scared of something. So if you are scared of a snake, it's not a bad thing to be scared of a snake or tell a child it's good to be. Second thing, now very important thing, which I want to tell, which is my belief. And on record, I want to say what is my belief as a filmmaker. I work with lots of Muslims. In this film, most of the Hindu roles are done by Muslim characters and most of the Muslim roles are done by Hindu characters. I don't want to tell the nuances of my life, but that's how I operate. The famous song is written by Faiz Ahmad Faiz, which I got the rights from Lahore. Today, if somebody gets to know in India, I got rights from Lahore, most of the people will destroy me tomorrow. How come you go to Lahore? But I have done it quietly. Most of my staff was Muslim. In fact, you will be shocked and surprised to know no leftist will ever do it in their lifetime. The penultimate scene where, if you've seen the film where this boy sits with the Kashmiri Muslim boy on a shikara, I asked a Kashmiri Muslim boy, who's a revolutionary, who's part of that revolution, I asked him to write that scene. And I have used that scene as is in the film. I said, you must have a voice in this film. And the acting is done by his friend who lives in Kashmir. But we don't use, if I was a typical Bollywood filmmaker, I would have used all these things to amplify them and to promote the film. We never did that. We did it for our own soul. I have not done for others. Third thing is, why is it that the moment somebody says terrorism, the entire Western media says you are Islamophobic? It's the problem with their mind, not my mind. I don't connect terrorism with Islam. It is another thing, it is a fact that at that point of time in 90s, the entire terrorism happened because of Islam. And that is the reason no Muslim fled Kashmir. You don't have Muslim refugees living anywhere else. But where a land which used to be 100% Hindu population is 0% Hindu population. Do I need say more? Third thing, why I am Buddha. Now, this is because I realize, and in true sense of Buddhist philosophy, every human being in this world is born capable of enlightenment. There is not even one soul in this world who doesn't have the power to be enlightened. We are born enlightened, which is why a child, whoever a child looks at, smiles. Child is not fearful. You throw a child up in the air, child doesn't get scared. We get scared, what happens if the child falls? So with time, with education and conditionings, slowly we become fearful. We start dividing, we start labeling, we start identifying ourselves with something, and we think anybody else who has a different identity is not good. We become more tribal as we evolve, as we grow in life. So therefore, I am Buddha basically is a foundation which works with the young people to tell them that you are Buddha. All of us are Buddhas. You are born Buddha, I am born Buddha. Everybody is born with a Buddha mind. And that's why it's called I am Buddha.
My name is Kamakshi. I'm a finance professional. हम आपको बहुत सालों से ट्विटर में फॉलो करते हैं. Much before I think Tashkent Files released.
Can you speak in English?
Of course I can.
Because your Thai audience, they won't understand
I
your
just started.
Hindi. Okay.
All right. So the thing is that this question is not really something to do with, you have created through Kashmir Files, both of you. I remember your tweet before it released, which said that it has to travel by word of mouth. I don't know how many, few theaters were actually screening and all that. So did you actually, today you guys are, you're in a position where you have the entire country talking, debating, be it the parliament, be it everywhere. This cause has come up in such a big way. Did you even ever envisage that you guys are going to be in this position, semi-gods today for many people?
There are two ways to look at it. Number one, I personally believe, and this is my conviction, that sometimes the spiritual forces work in such a way that something has to happen. They create the right circumstances for it to make it happen. And a lot of philosophers in the world have spoken about it. In the book Prophet, what's the name of that book? The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, he has also said the same thing, the whole universe conspires to make it happen. Shah Rukh Khan also said in a film, Hindi translation. So, but I believe in it, and I think we were the chosen ones. We became the medium, and I still treat myself as a medium. I think in my mind I feel that I'm just doing a job. Somebody has given me a job. This is the story. You have to just go and tell the world. So we are modern pracharaks. We are just walking from one place to another, and we are just talking about it. Because for 32 years there has been no real conversations around this story. Nobody spoke about it. Speaking about Kashmiri Hindu genocide was a big no-no in India's elitist circle. And all the conversation was basically hijacked by the elites of the society. So a common man had no voice. So if common man wants to say something, people say, shut up, what do you know? I'm a PhD, I'm a scholar, I'm a professor, or I'm this and that. And so common man had no voice. And therefore you will find we never thought what is going to happen with the film. We just said we have to make this story, and we have to tell this story, and we have to promote this story. That's all we have been doing. And who are the buyers? Who are the people who actually said, oh, this is who started owning this film? Are not the elites of the society. Elites are still talking about whether it's polarizing or doing what. But this film is uniting the grassroots level. At grassroots level, when we walk, we are experiencing in last 1 month or so, when we go, it's always the poor section of the society which comes and they start crying, they hold our hand. A lot of lower middle class women give me 11 rupees, 21 rupees, which means nothing, but it's a symbolic token. And so it has touched the heart. It's become a voice for the voiceless people. Let me put it like this. The unrepresented people are finding a lot of representation in this film, because my understanding is all over the world. I was in US for 1.5 months, 40 days. Most of the black people came to me and they said, this is our story. Yazdi people came and they said, this is our story. Syrian people came and they said, it's our story. One of the organizations who worked with us was Buddhist organization. So many Buddhist people in Saffron Grove, they told me this is our story. So, common people are connecting with it because at the end of it, I believe the whole world does not want terrorism. There is nobody, no sane person you will find who wants terrorism. And anybody who's justifying terrorism by intellectualizing it, by writing articles, saying where is the other side of the story. There is no other side to terrorism. There's only one side to terrorism. So, this is what my answer to you is.
It's not a question, I just want to share. I think this is a very relevant observation that I had. In 1990, I was a student of 9th class. My mother used to watch serial called Green Nanny. Green Nanny. She was very fond of Pallavi Joshi. Without any delay, she always looked at your serial. And I asked her, why are you watching this serial? She said that because her eyes look like a Green Nanny. So it was 1990. So I just want to share that we grown up by looking at your serials at that time. It's almost like 30 years after. I feel very excited to see you on the stage here in front of
Grown up, आप इतने कोई young नहीं लग रहे मेरे।
I'm 42 now, but I see the real life experience. It exactly happened, 1990. So my mother liked you so much. I will tell her that I met her today.
Okay,
And,
you can take photo and then send it through WhatsApp now. So I'll go to the next question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Now the second important thing I will talk that I met Vivek Agnihotri at Chicago airport. We were both shopping actually. Do you remember me, sir?
I don't know. I never shop, so maybe.
And I thought he's buying so many chocolates for Pallavi.
Okay.
We were both coming from World Hindu Congress 2018 in Chicago. We met airport. The most important part I will talk to you that I asked him, sir, what is your name? He was part of Congress. He said, myself, Vivek Agnihotri. So if the person who is so famous, I feel like stupid, I don't know his name also. And as a Bollywood actor or director or producer, if you ask what is your name, you feel very embarrassed, right? He said, myself, Agnihotri. Even though he was our main lead speaker of the Hindu Media Conference at World Hindu Congress in Chicago. But his conference, the way he speaks, the way he lead the session in the Chicago, we were all fascinating, very, very much enlightened us. And one thing I would like to tell you that we are going to organize World Hindu Congress next year in Bangkok.
Oh, really?
So we would like to invite you for that conference. So Sarab is sitting here, he is the chairperson of the Congress. So these two incidents I want to share with you, and thank you for being a very best movie for us, the Kashmir Files. My last question is what next after this? Thank you.
Okay.
I want to give you one inner this thing. You said you've been fascinated by his speeches. So was I. That's how I got married to him.
Good morning. I'm Kanokwan, Thai watcher. I watched this movie with Lekha. I have just easy two questions. The first, why do the main characters' name in movie are the same name as all Hindu gods? And the second, what's your biggest challenge to make this movie? Thank you.
So, see, every filmmaker has, if you're a genuine storyteller, then you have a lot of layers you create so that if some people want to understand it, they will understand. Yes, every single character in this film is named after some Hindu god or goddess or deity or something. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Lakshmi, Radhika, Krishna, Pushkar, all those names, So, somewhere, despite our faith in gods, in late 80s and 90s, all gods failed in Kashmir. People who had faith in Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Sorry, don't mind it. I'm not talking in religious terms, more metaphorical terms. I think all gods failed them. And when all gods fail you, that's when Mahabharata happens. So I saw it more like a Mahabharata between Pandavas and Kauravas. And that's where a boy called Krishna comes in. But Krishna is not evolved into a Krishna. He has a potential to be a Krishna. All of us have potential to be Krishna or Buddha or Jesus or whatever, That's what I believe. That's why you will see when he goes to meet the villain of the movie, the terrorist called Bitta, what's the first thing Bitta sees him and tells him? He says, your name is Krishna, but you look like Arjun. Because only Ravan can recognize Ram. Only a villain, super villain recognizes the superhero. So he recognized that he has a potential to be Krishna. And when after he has a long chat with him, then Krishna finds who's like Arjuna right now, confused what's right and what's wrong, what is dharma and what is adharma. And then he discovers or self-actualizes himself, and the Krishna in him gets self-actualized, and then he gives the speech in the end, which resolves the entire matter. So this, you can say, was kind of a creative kink in my mind. I'm very happy and delighted that you understood it. I don't think anybody has ever asked me this question before. So please, I would like to take a picture with you after this, and I would say you are the first person who recognized the nuances of the thing.
Pallavi ji, namaskar. Vivek ji, namaskar. Glad to be here. Really privileged to be in a room full of luminaries along with you. The question is very simple, and it has been persistent in my mind ever since I watched the Tashkent Files. A very strong, more than a film, or more than just a documentary. It was a very strong content, and I always wondered why it wasn't there, or maybe in my humble sense, to whatever resources I am connected to, I never saw a follow-up, bureaucratically or politically. We never saw results or the desired follow-ups after the Tashkent Files. Like we are seeing a lot of strong follow-ups on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, on his files, on his revelations. After this Kashmir Files, which I'm yet to watch, I'm taking the privilege of your presence here because this is the closest I can get to to this such a big issue. And please feel free to call me out if this is not the forum to ask this question. After Kashmir Files, and you must be knowing this, what are the steps that are being followed up to relocate, or I would say bring the Kashmiris back home to their origins? What is the government doing? Is the bureaucracy doing anything? With so much of level of awareness now, what are the steps on the ground that have been followed up after this? Cinema, it is more than a cinema, it's a revolution now. So that's what my question is. And of course, especially after Tashkent Files.
Good question, but asking the wrong person. Because neither am I bureaucracy, nor am I a politician or a policy maker. But I can just tell you something. The film is about right to justice. And the first step of justice is to recognize and acknowledge that there is a problem. Suppose somebody goes and sits in your home, captures your home, and you go to the court and court says, no, there is no problem. Then there cannot be any justice. The first thing is to acknowledge, yes, a genocide happened. In my mind, the first step was to define it correctly, not as an exodus, because exodus is also possible if there is a flood, there can be exodus, mass exodus of people. And so first thing is correcting it, calling it genocide. I am very happy in last 5-6 days, all the top newspapers and magazines of the world have called me for interviews, and I don't want to tell them, but they also don't realize that now their line of questioning is genocide, not exodus. right, who denied this definition, they have also fallen into this thing, and they are also calling it genocide. Almost most of the world who has seen the film is calling it genocide. That's the first step. Second thing is recognizing that yes, something like this took place. See, anybody who says evidence, give me the evidence. What can be a better evidence than seeing 500 or 700,000 Kashmiri Hindus not living in Kashmir? What can be a better evidence than all those burned houses and bungalows? Do you know, when you go to Kashmir as a tourist, then the guides take you on a tour, it's a guided tour, they take you and show you all these houses. And they say, there used to be some Kashmiri Pandits who used to live here. So that is the second most important thing the world is recognizing. We are sitting in a forum and discussing it for the first time. Never ever something like this happened. And now who's on the defense? Genocide enablers are on defense. They are organizing symposiums in India. In last 3-4 days I have seen, they are organizing symposiums and they are now saying, no, there was no genocide. It's good. When they come on defensive, that is a wonderful thing. Third thing is, now it's for the activists to take it forward. But as far as taking Kashmiri Hindus back to Kashmir is concerned, I think that's an utopia. It's not going to happen. Because they are very successful wherever they are. But home is not you go back to. Home is a mindset. Your mind knows I can go there whenever I want to go. You live in Thailand. If somebody says, why don't you go back to India? That is a very unfair question to ask. But you know, whenever you want, you can fly back to wherever you want in India. So feeling of home is more important than actually going and living there. I think this feeling of home is slowly coming back, and this, I have a feeling, in next 4 or 5 years, this project would be complete, and Kashmiris, not why Kashmiris? I mean, Kashmir is part of India. Even I want to go there. Why are we just restricting it to Kashmiris? Everybody in this world should be able to go to Kashmir freely without fear of guns or terrorism. That's my dream.
Mr. Vivek, I want to ask you, as you mentioned that if Tashkent File is released now, maybe it would be received even better. So you are a very clever filmmaker. So while you have shown the truth, you've also challenged the narrative that existed through Pallavi ji's character. So do you think India has changed? People are ready to receive that alternate narrative which was completely brushed aside. As you see, the university that is shown, the population that is shown, even a Pandit boy was not aware of his history. He didn't know which side to stand. His confusion is also confusion of today's youth, but towards the end he meets the success. So has India changed in its listening? What do you have to say about that?
Of course, yes. And if it has not changed to the desired level, I'm sure in next a decade or so, there will be hundreds of Vivek Agnihotris who will ensure that the change takes place. But what is this change we are seeking? See, everybody talks about change, but it's very difficult to understand what do we need to change to. You know, no society can ever evolve if it does not take pride in the goodness of that society. The politics of the modern time is to keep focus on the fault lines, keep telling you about your weakness, constantly pinch you about your weakness and therefore demoralize you. And it is very easy to win over a demoralized society. Because the societies are not demoralized, then it is very, very difficult, it's impossible to sell unhealthy products to people. Do you realize that? Right? The first thing I learned in marketing, that if you want to sell unhealthy things to people, demoralize them. And or make them addicts to certain things, be it Netflix or Coca-Cola or alcohol or anything. Similarly, your mind very easily can get addicted to fault lines. focusing on weaknesses. But a child who's weak, we try to focus on the strengths of that child. And that's how, mothers would know better. A child becomes stronger if you focus on the strengths. So I decided to be on a journey. I said, yes, we have lots of problems. I spent all my life looking at the problems. Now, is it possible for me to go and talk about the greatness of my civilization? So I identified what are the great things which are of any utility to the entire humanity, not only India. And that's what I have been doing for last 12 years. I travel all over the world. I give free speeches. I don't charge for them. And I am constantly telling them from my point of view what is good for the society, which has primarily our Hindu civilization philosophy. And when I say Hindu, because that is a geographical thing, it's got no religious connotations. India is changing. The younger generation is believing in their own nation. And the fact comes from, I was at IIT Mumbai, IIT Bombay, it's called IIT Bombay. At IIT Bombay, and the dean was telling me that earlier, almost 80% of their students applied for foreign education. And now that number has come down to 40 to 45 in last 4 or 5 years, which is a pretty good sign. Similarly, if you see earlier when Indians went to, let's take an example of America. When went to America, then they resigned totally from Indian philosophy. And most of the NRIs who used to come back to India, they would come to India and they would talk about, yahan to ye acha nahi hai, wo acha nahi hai, etc., 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 etc. Because that's how they justified their existence. But now if you go to America, and even in Silicon Valley, you find all these, primarily a lot of Maharashtrian and Telugu young boys and girls are there, a lot of South Indians are there, and they very openly carry their culture and their values on their sleeves. They are not bothered. They don't care. They are not changing their habits. I think which is a very subtle but good sign. Today, a film like the Kashmir Files, who would have thought 10 years ago that we'll sit in Bangkok and discuss the Kashmir Files, or we'll show this film all across the world, and the Jews will take out a rally in Florida yesterday. They took it out. Who would have thought that New York Times and Washington Post, CNN, all these channels would cover a film like the Kashmir Files? Who would have thought 36 organizations coming together, including Christian organizations, coming together and doing this? Yesterday, a very popular Christian missionary, he did a review of the Kashmir Files because he was forced by other Christians to watch this. Okay, so which means the world is becoming aware. And how is the world becoming aware? It's not becoming aware because there is a government policy on making the world aware. It is becoming aware because people are understanding the value of peaceful, non-violent kind of a culture which basically evolved in the East, but at the center was India. So there are a lot of people doing great work. Indian diplomats are doing great work. Indian writers are doing great work. And I'm a very positive person. And I think all of us, every Indian who's outside India, is becoming more confident and is talking more and is telling stories about India, which is a good sign.
Any more questions or comments?
So, hello, both of you. I'm Nivedita Kumari. You talked about 4 different religions coming from India, and I'm from Bihar. And actually, it's a seat of all these 4 religions. Historically, there is a connection, and I could kind of relate to all of these things. But sometimes, as a researcher, we think differently. When we see things in anthropology or when we try to do any ethnographic studies, truth is not absolute there. Because when we ask respondents, it's their story. It's really nice that as a filmmaker you can just bring it out and show it to public, and more people can know about it. That's really nice. A normal researcher who has very less funds may not be able to do the same thing. So I was actually trying to ask, as a researcher, what is it that you would like to seek further? Not just in terms of, like, I felt that you just started with this truth that, yeah, something happened and people don't know about it, and you really need to reach out to people and tell a wider audience about it. But as a researcher, you must have felt that there's something which is still missing, which is still not told, or there are some, like India has so many kinds of different, like it's not just India, you talked about like Africa or other communities who had these problems. So is there something which we can like think as a further research? And I really want to appreciate this initiative that you guys take as a team. And I just want to, it's not a question that I just want you to answer now, but I was just wondering that, yes, what next? I mean, I was reminded, I'm sorry, I haven't seen both the movies, and of course I'll go back and check and watch them. You know why I watch movies? Because I have stayed away from India for long, not very long, but yeah, at least 8 or 9 years. And I always watch movies because I can see India in the movies. And I can relate to it. It's a very emotional kind of an experience. I miss my country, and when I watch it on the screen, I kind of relate to it, and I remember my childhood, I remember my story. So it's a very, very important responsibility that you have as a filmmaker, I feel, because there are many people like me who watch your movies. So I was just trying to like bring this discourse here, and I wanted to just bring this to your notice. What would you like to further seek? Because there is, it's not just that community, maybe more communities, or not just their story. Sometimes something might have been missed. It's not.
Why are you going around the bush? Tell me directly what you want to say.
Yeah, so I'm not going around the beating about the bush.
I mean, you're saying something is missing. What do you think is missing?
No, I am not telling it's missing because I haven't seen it. I clearly said that. But I want to bring out a researcher in you. Not as a filmmaker, but as a researcher. When you are actually in this path of seeking the truth, what do you feel you should do as a filmmaker?
Okay, so it's a personal thing. Okay, I thought
very, very personal.
Right. I'm a researcher. You know, my soul is of a researcher. I'm always researching. Every single moment I'm researching about something. And this film is based on primary research. There are 3 kinds of researches: primary, secondary, and tertiary. This is based on primary research, where you go to the subjects, okay, and then you get their story and tell them further. Though I'm making a couple of films which were planned earlier, but in my life, my research, my journey now is about creative consciousness. If you follow me on social media, I've been writing a lot about it in last few years. I write, let me tell you a secret about myself, I write what I research. Right? I never write about thoughts which are like resolved thoughts. Whatever I'm seeking, I'm researching, I'm confused about, that's what I keep writing on social media. Because when I write something, it triggers lots of reactions. People write from all the sides, and that is the best way to research. I get diverse points of view. So I am working on creative consciousness a lot. And I said, what's the most important thing for humanity? And I realized it's the consciousness which is creative. You know, and I mean, it's a long thing. I have master classes on this subject, but just to put it very simply, this world is controlled by a creative consciousness. Everything around you, anything around you is born out of creativity. Creativity is not something that you take a brush and you paint. Very often, creativity is misunderstood as art. Right? If somebody is a singer, we say creative person, which is wrong, absolutely wrong. 7 notes is a mathematics, a lot of people can learn it. It's a skill. Painting is also a skill. Creativity is primarily whatever ideas are around us. What we do with those ideas, that's what creativity is all about. Second thing is, you spoke about anthropology. This world somewhere has become very anthropocentric. You know what it means? You understand what I mean. Anthropocentric means we believe that human beings are the superior race. And this world is for us because of us. And we are the caretakers of this universe. I think that is a very wrong thinking, and that's what creates most of the problems. The minute you surrender to the universe and the cosmos and you say, thou art that, tattvamasi like this. You are that. Everybody, even an ant or a flower or whatever is in this universe, we are part of this huge system and we don't control the world. And that's where I want to lead eventually, to understand, is it we, just because we think and we have language, makes us superior or not? That is the last part. But right now, creative consciousness is what the researcher in me is seeking. I'm trying to find answers to that. I can't be more honest than this. Thank you.